The traditions that we have for our Christmas celebration tell who we are, tells our family history, and helps us remember the gift that God gave us of His Son into the world during this time of celebration. To understand the history behind some of these traditions, we go today to the Christmas tree. It is a huge event in putting up the Christmas tree. It can also be a contentious event if we have children or a husband and wife that don't believe in the same type or the same place where the Christmas decorations are supposed to go. But let's go back in history. And we go back to the 850, 850 years after the birth of Christ. That's when the Druids lived, who were a cultic community, and they were in England and France and Germany. They were the people of nobility and the priestly group. They believed different from what we do, so they're considered to be pagans. And as pagans, they worship the oak tree, they worship the evergreen, they worship the things of nature. And when the Christians came into their community and won the Druids to Christ and helped them understand about the birth of Christ and what the birth of Christ was about, then the Christians were smart enough to adapt some of their traditions into our Christian faith. So since they worshiped the evergreen and they brought the evergreen trees into their home as a part of the winter solace on December the 21st, the Christians accepted that as part of their practice. So from the 850 years after the birth of Christ, we see the Germans moving into the United States. It was the immigration, if you will, and they brought with them the traditions of the past. And one of the traditions was the Christmas tree. So in the coldest and the darkest day, when you had the longest night and the shortest day, which is normally December the 21st, would be the day that they would bring the tree into their home. And being of the German heritage and the tradition of the Druids, they would begin to decorate the trees. We know that one of the earliest to use this as a Christmas tradition was Martin Luther, that lived in the 16th century. He was the one with the Reformation of the Christian faith. And Martin Luther was the first one to use lights, which were actually candles, on the evergreen tree. We know that in the 1850s, there was a gentleman by the name of August Ingram in Worcester, Ohio, who had recently immigrated into that community. And this gentleman, being of the German heritage, wanted to bring part of his Christmas heritage into his American home. So he cut down an evergreen and brought it into his house, decorated it, and his friends and his family came together and they celebrated the birth of Christ through the use of the Christmas tree. We also know that one of the earliest times of the use of the Christmas tree, perhaps not the first, was in Williamsburg, Virginia, where again the German heritage was brought into the community. And in that community, they established the first community Christmas tree. The Christmas tree reminds us as believers and the eternal life that we can receive through Jesus Christ. As he died and rose from the dead and sits at the right hand of God, he brings through salvation to us our everlasting life, that when we die on earth, it is not the end of life, but in heaven we continue our life. So the evergreen tree, called the Christmas tree in our homes, is to remind us that there, even in the darkest days of the winter solace, as the Druids would have various traditions, as Christians, we celebrate the Christmas tree to remind us of God's presence in our lives and of the eternity that lives with us as believers in God.